fight. We don't have to kill. Everybody in the whole wide world really just needs to chill. No, we don't have to fuss, no.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Just Chill with Oliver George. This is episode 103, and not only a new episode, but a brand new season, season 5. We're coming at you. My guest today is someone I'm very excited to speak with, a very funny comedian and writer, and also fellow podcaster, who, might I say, is also one of Brockville's finest. But before we get into it, I want to remind you, if you are watching on YouTube and you would prefer audio only for whatever reason, you can find that on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and other places like that. But I say don't, because I don't make anything from those guys. And I appreciate the exposure, but please come over to YouTube where you can subscribe to the channel, and it really does help me with producing the show. So if you can hit that up and press that button, I would really, really appreciate it. If you want to reach out to me, maybe with a cool guest that you think I should interview or some general feedback about the show, you can do that on social media or send me an email at justchillpodcasting@gmail.com. This is where I would normally say, get your stickers, but there's like 2 left. So you know what? I'll let you know when we have new merch and some t-shirts or something. So back to the guest, or the man of the hour, as I often say. Very, very funny individual, a very talented writer, I've been learning in researching the episode. Also, though, the show he hosts is the Canadian Comedy Hall of Fame podcast, which is boasting a huge lineup of amazing guests. So I wrote a lot of them down because I didn't want to forget some of these, like Steph Tolev, Jim Belushi, Scott Thompson and Bruce McCullough from Kids in the Hall, Ron James, Tyler Morrison, who's been blowing up lately.
Yeah.
And so many more. A lot of crossover guests actually who have been on this show as well. I'm really, really excited to talk to him. I'm talking about the man, Chad Noonan. Thank you so much for coming.
This is awesome. No, this is great. I'm excited. Thank you.
Cheers. Cheers to a new season.
Yeah. Season 5? Mm-hmm. How many episodes do you do in a season?
It's all over the place. And I actually kind of wanted to catch the audience up on a bit of that. But before we do, I've been listening to The Honeydew a lot lately, which is a great podcast with Ryan Sickler.
Okay, yeah.
And one thing I really appreciate about his show that I think I'm going to adopt here is, what do you have to plug, like right off the top? Because I usually do that at the end, and half the time no one's listening after 2 hours. So let's do it up top.
Yeah. Well, the podcast, like it's been doing very well. The latest episode was Kenny, who we were talking about when I came in.
Hotz, yeah.
Yeah, and Dave Mirage, which is cool.
Mirage. I thought it was Mirage. Is how I was.
Dave Mirage. Oh man, I said Mirage. I hosted for him.
Mirage is kind of cool.
Yeah. He never corrected me. Man, am I screwing that up? I hope not.
I just saw you at his show. Actually, you were opening for him.
Yeah. I opened for him, and then I hosted for him the night before, so it was fun. He's great. So the podcast, anywhere you listen, there's no video. I'm just doing stand-up everywhere. I've got Instagram, Noonan Chad, and
it'll come on screen when you come on screen.
Okay,
but yeah, definitely. I hope people go and check that out.
Like a link tree, and you can see I post all the shows there. So I'm excited. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to start doing that. Plugs up front. So thank you, Ryan Sickler, for the inspiration on that front. Before we get into you, though, I did really want to bring my audience up to speed, because it's been kind of a weird. You were asking about episodes per season. The first couple seasons was, I think, about 32 each, but that was also during the pandemic, and Zoom was a lot easier to kind of throw together sometimes. And then life started getting back to normal, less free time and such. So the last couple seasons have been, I think, about 18, somewhere around there. But specifically the last 6 months or so has been a little weird and kind of chaotic. So if anyone's wondering, why haven't I been posting more episodes? I'm assuming there's a few people out there wondering that, hopefully. There's just been so much going on. Starting all the way back in June, I got married to my longtime partner of 10 years. So that obviously took up a lot of...
I thought I was going to cue the clapping. Cue the clapping.
If you can remember which... Oh, nice. I didn't know if you remembered which button it was. So that was amazing, but obviously took a lot of preparation. And then pretty much right after that, we went into doing the live 100th episode at Yuck Yucks with Derek Seguin and a bunch of other great comics. So that, again, was a lot of preparation. And after that was done, was really proud and happy with how it went. I thought, you know what, I'm just going to kind of kick back this summer. Normally I do a lot of episodes in the summer, but let's just kind of take it easy, spend time with family. And Rick Campanelli came on in August, and that was just kind of because he reached out to me. I wasn't going to not have Rick Campanelli come stop by the studio. And then 2 days after that, I broke my arm. For like a month, I was kind of just doing physio and stuff and trying to get back to ship shape, because the end of September was my honeymoon in LA. And then I came back from that with COVID. So that put me out for a couple of weeks. And then we managed to get one more off before the season was done, with Caesar McCool sort of ending things off in October. And then the plan was the usual, take a few weeks off in November, get up and going by December. But it had a couple guests that were supposed to happen that kind of fell through. And then it was my wife's 40th birthday, and it's just been, and now Christmas. And so here we are on December, 28th?
Yeah. 29.
29th? Oh, yeah, it's my brother's birthday today. Jesus. So that's the long-winded explanation. But I also did a lot of kind of reflecting about the podcast during that time because it was the longest period I had been not really doing it.
Right.
And part of me missed the shit out of it. And another part of me kind of enjoyed the piece of not having to edit and wrangle guests and all that. So we are back, but moving forward, I'm always going to do what's best for my mental health and for my family. And so you're going to get more episodes. They just might be kind of sporadic and inconsistent. We'll see. I really don't know.
People don't realize how much that editing process is. And you're doing video and audio. Mine's just audio, and I still will sit down and if I could edit everything in 2 hours, that's phenomenal.
Oh, that's
amazing.
That's really
right?
good.
4 usually, and then just posting it everywhere can take for another hour. Sometimes for me, just writing the paragraph of what I want to say.
Oh, dude, I have just slaved over those several times.
Exactly. Those what buzzwords do I want people to search when?
Oh, for me, it's more I just want to really pay respect to the guests and try to really encapsulate what they're all about in a way that seems, obviously you want people to clickbait or whatever, sucks them in.
Yeah.
But really, I just get hung up on I want to respect this person and try to sum them. It's hard to sum up a person in a paragraph or two, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That part is agonizing, a little bit.
The social media stuff is mind numbing, I find. I care so little. I mean, I care in the sense that I know it'll help grow an audience, but I have somewhat of a disdain for social media and the grip it has on all of us, myself included, that I kind of just resent it while I'm doing it. And
dude, my back's getting sore. And I think it's from just being on my phone on
I've
TikTok.
had the neck.
Dude,
the neck pain.
What is going on? I'm trying to be more present with my posture, and it's literally from just being on my phone, sitting on the can on my phone.
I've heard about thumb injuries and stuff too from texting.
I saw this I saw this photo. It was an AI generated image of what humans will look like in 250 years, and we're all gonna have basically no neck with a bump on our back,
Wall-E,
and
right?
Shoulders up like this, which I already kind of look like I don't have a neck. It just looks like
I'm good.
Yeah, but it's we're all gonna have these basically our body's gonna morph into just so we can text and be on our phones more. It's gonna be
the neck will just start curving
up.
naturally.
Yeah. That's what AI predicted. It was so
good Lord.
wild, and people are no, that makes sense.
So that was Wall-E, right? The Pixar movie. Everybody was just floating around in hover chairs, just gigantic obese society.
They didn't do anything. They've ruined. They were just firing garbage up into the sky, which is we'll do that at some point.
Good Lord.
It'll be cheaper for rocket ships just to fire garbage into space.
I wouldn't be surprised if we have a secret.
It's probably happened. Yeah. Who knows? Yeah.
Dang. Well, I'm glad I got that out of the way. I did want to kind of let people know what was going on and moving forward. Hopefully we'll be more consistent, but I don't know. Thank you for sticking with us if you have and you're still here. I was also kind of you take a break and you're I'm going to be really healthy. And when we come back for the new season, I'm going to be I'm going to have new glasses and I'm going to be in great shape. And then instead I book the first episode for the most indulgent week of the year. Yeah. So not great planning on my part. Supposed to get a haircut today. That didn't happen.
It's, this week takes a lot out of me.
Oh,
it's
man.
All progress lost for 2023.
And you have to just kind of reboot the system after.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, let's talk about your roots because we mentioned that you were from Brockville, but I want to know pre-stand-up, just kind of who was little you?
Yeah,
growing up,
I grew up in this small town called Toledo. That's where I went to school. It's literally 4 stop signs, and it's about 20 minutes outside of Brockville. So I went to elementary school there, played baseball there, played hockey in Athens. I have one sister, pretty normal family, mom and dad, you know what I mean? So yeah, I grew up in this really small town. I think there was my elementary school, my graduating class wouldn't have had 15 kids.
Oh, wow.
So that was and then I went into the big city of Brockville for high school, which was better for me, even though, because I was not a country kid, but I grew up in the country. My parents weren't country people. They're more city folk.
So you wanted to be in the city, bro.
I wanted to be in the city. So I went to high school in the city, still living in the country. And then when I graduated high school, my parents finally moved into the city of Brockville.
And for people who aren't familiar with Ottawa and this area, Brockville, a city, I guess it is technically, but
it's 30,000 maybe.
Okay, that's more than I thought. Actually,
yeah, it's pretty small though.
I feel those should be towns.
Yeah.
The
A
town
city,
of Brockville.
There should be like the word city. There should be like 10 of them in Canada. You know, there's like 10 cities. Yeah. There's this. It's a town. Like,
so you must love it though, because I know you've moved to other places and then you're still there. You went back.
Yeah, I lived in like Whistler for a really short time and lived downtown Ottawa for years. I tolerate it now. I don't know if I love it. Like I don't know if I love like chaos, hustle and bustle. Like I love a big city. I love like walking around a big city, and I don't have that there. Like when I go to Toronto, I'm like, this is awesome. Like I would
it's like being in Times Square or something.
Yeah, if I could afford it, I would be there. You know, New York City is like the perfect place for me. Like I went twice in 2 months this year, and I'm like, yeah, this is where I want to be. Like
that's like the end goal. Hopefully one day.
Who knows? Like maybe like I hope in an alternate universe, Chad is living in New York City doing his thing,
writing for SNL or something.
Yeah. I go back and forth. Like I do like the like small town. I mean, I would like that New York like lifestyle, but part of me is also like I would like a place like a cabin in the woods, you know. And I think I'm closer to cabin in the woods now.
We're talking about how you have your own house at least, living out sort of on the outskirts.
That's sweet. Like I can't complain. Like I bought a house like 8 years ago, and which is like
there would be double the price now.
You know what I mean? And a lot of people who, it's funny like doing comedy in the green room and talking about like owning a home. Like people don't have that.
There's no
like,
relatability
headliners
there.
in Toronto don't have that. Like it's it's
well, a lot of comics aren't in the greatest positions depending on where they're at in their careers, you know, crashing on couches and shit like that.
Yeah, for sure. But Brockville's fine. Like it's okay. Like it's just all right.
I wanted to ask you about a couple of like jobs you had coming up because I read a couple of things about you I'm assuming pre-comedy that you were where did I put it? You were like, you worked for the beer store as a customer service rep?
Oh, yeah. I did that for like almost 10 years.
What does that entail? Like someone's not happy with their purchase?
It's basically like the front person at the beer store, like buying empties.
I thought it was like corporate, the beer store.
No, I was a beer store like guy. I was like the beer guy. Yeah, in a town called Prescott, like the small town Prescott. And I was there for like probably almost 10 years. And it was a sweet job. Like the beer store like pays well. It's like benefits, like all that stuff. Like it's awesome. But it's also it's just a grind. Like it's a grind talking to like, you know, the same people every day.
Well, you start to feel like you're caught in like a Groundhog Day, maybe a little bit.
It's wild. Like the same guys like waiting in line for their beer before the store opens. They're always there like 15 minutes early. They're like lined up with their empties. Their 2-4 case that they drank yesterday. They're gonna go cash it in because they need that $2.40 for the case they're gonna buy today. Brutal. It's just like this cycle that kind of like wears on you.
What an existence,
Yeah. It's wild. Yeah,
I could hear my dad.
And you did all that 10 years and you didn't become an alcoholic.
No, it actually made me look like nothing will make you want to drink less than showing up to the beer store hungover. Like, you know what I mean? Like nothing, buying garbage from people, like literally you're buying their garbage from their dirty empties. Showing up there hungover is like you do it once. Everybody does it once, and then you're like, oh, I can never do this again.
I don't even like bringing back the empties there just because you have to use the communal bins, and they're always just covered in some sort of grayish brown sludge.
We had to like you know, wash those out. Like it was a good job. Like it's a super chill. It's like
you never had any like crazy like derelict drunks trying to start shit or
all the time
or stealing stuff. I would imagine
constantly.
But you're not supposed to chase them down.
You're not, but we like always kind of because we would know them.
So
like,
boring. There,
you're not gonna call the cops on like Randy from down the street who's gonna try it again next week. You just get Randy 2 times when he comes back in. You're like, oh, Randy stole a tall boy today. We saw him on camera. The next time he comes in, we're charging him for 3. You know what I mean? We're like, hey, we're charging you. It's like it's so funny. Like beer store corporate would be like shocked, but like that's what you do at like the store level because it's like no other retail job.
Yeah,
you know,
I can
like
imagine.
there's no other retail thing. It's not even. I don't even consider it like retail, like working at a beer store. It's like its own weird thing. But
it's almost medical for some people, right? It's like people coming to get methadone or something.
Absolutely.
Same vibes.
We would have people that would like take seizures in their car because like before the store opens because they need their like alcohol fix.
That's one of the reasons that LCBO had like really preferential treatment about staying open during the pandemic because, and I know this because my wife is a nurse, ICU nurse, and she's told me about seizures from alcoholics, and that's what I guess the government was largely worried about, that if they couldn't, like the beds in the hospitals were already so overwhelmed with COVID stuff that the last thing they needed was a bunch of seizing drunks who couldn't get their stuff from the LCBO because of social distancing has it shut down or whatever.
Yeah. Then that would happen. Like I saw it like a few times, like working there, where people would like, you know, like crash because they need their alcohol fix. Like it was wild.
Is it like messed up to sell it to them after that, after you watch that, and then you're like, okay, I guess I'll still provide you.
I don't know. It was so weird. There were so many times where it's like where you're like, oh, I don't know if I should sell, like this person's like on their like last dollar, you know what I mean? And you're still just like, all right, like
you're like, this person doesn't have shoes or socks.
The craziest, like the saddest thing I would see was a guy would come in, and I saw this all the time, and he'd be like, it's my first day of retirement. I'd never seen this guy before, right? And he's like, I just retired from my job at the city or whatever as a snowplow driver or whatever. He's pumped. And he's like, I'm going to get a case of beer. And then you see that guy the next day and the next day and the next day. And then you just see that guy every single day. And you just see their life. You know what I mean? Just like, because he had nothing else.
Really enjoying his retirement.
Yeah. Like literally just pissing away his retirement with
brutal.
It was like, you saw that and it just became like and like normal. And like,
yeah, it seems like it'd be a depressing place to work. I don't know how you could do 10 years.
Like it is. It can be fun in a way, but it can also like those, because like working in the back with the crew and like piling beer and like, you know, doing stuff like that is like fun. No, there's no discount.
Oh, not even. Crazy.
They used to do, when I started there, you could buy the broken cases at $1 a beer. So
that's pretty good.
So if one bottle broke in a case when it was coming off the truck, you could buy the case for like $23.
That's
plus tax
solid.
or whatever. Yeah, it was all right.
Yeah.
Plus deposit. So, you know, you can get a case for like under $30. And then people started just like breaking bottles. And yeah, exactly. So they took away that.
Oh, man. How long did that last? Like a month?
Yeah, it wasn't long. I remember when they like brought it in, and I think I took advantage. And you could do it once a month. You could buy like one case a month. So I think I got it like 3 months, and then they were like, nah, program over. Like we can't do this anymore. Yeah.
Pretty predictable that would happen though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, people are always going to take advantage. Like,
so eventually you did leave this job though, because I saw that well, one thing, you're working for the city in some capacity, or you were, because you're a corporate engagement specialist.
I am.
For the city of Brockville?
Well, no, it's for a company called Career Services, for a nonprofit.
Okay.
And they help people with disabilities get jobs. So my job was to connect with businesses within the city to like get them, you know, to be like, hey, you should hire this person with a disability. They'd be great for your company. So I've done that for 7 years.
That's good work.
Yeah. It's awesome. Next week is my last week though there. So I'm leaving next Friday is my last time at that job. So I almost
comedy's picking up so much.
Yeah, I have like enough, like I got this other job where it's kind of doing the same thing but on a provincial level, so it's called the Ontario Disability Employment Network, and so we advocate for people with disabilities but more provincially now. So like instead of talking to like the local Tim Hortons, be like, you should hire this guy, now it's talking to Tim Hortons corporate,
a wider net now
corporately. So I'm gonna do some work for them, comedy stuff. I do like a lot of social media stuff with the Canadian Comedy Hall of Fame. I do their marketing and social media as well. So there's just like a bunch of little side things going on. So yeah.
Well, we're definitely going to talk about the podcast in a bit because I'm not going to jump there right yet, but I do have a lot of questions about that. Because, yeah, we'll get there when we get there. But first up, I want to ask you, apparently you worked for the Olympics.
I did.
In 2010.
Like
so what's this? There's got to be a story there.
Yes, I love this story. I remember, when they announced that the Olympics were coming to Vancouver, I was probably like 12 years old. And I have this like, this sounds so awful, but I have this like thing where I kind of just like wish things and they just happen for me.
Manifest destiny.
It's crazy. And I'm not even like big on that, but it's like things I like just work out for me.
What's it called?
Manifesting.
No, but people make a board. It's like a dream board or something.
A vision board.
Vision
but
board,
I just like get obsessed with something and then I just think about it all the time. And I feel like it's just like you see the opportunity and you go for it. And the Olympics is one of those things. Like, always have been obsessed with the Olympics. Like, my life goes on hold when the Olympics are on. Like,
is there a reason specifically?
I was like,
were your parents really into it? Or?
Dad's super into it too. I was born during the Olympics when they were in Calgary in '88. Like, I don't know what it is, but they've just always been on in my house. Friggin', I can tell you.
Are you a big sports fan otherwise?
I'm a big sports fan.
Okay, well, that
but
helps.
like usually like guys that are football and hockey fans aren't necessarily
into
fans
curling
of
or
swimming.
whatever. Yeah.
But I friggin' the Olympics are it for me. Like,
wow,
I'll take my vacation when the Olympics are on. Like, that's so when I was like 12 or 13, they announced that the Olympics are coming to Vancouver, and I was like, I'm gonna go to these Olympics. Like, I watched the announcement. My mom's like, yeah, okay, sure. And then fast forward to 2009, I was dating someone in Ottawa, living in Brockville, working there, but like working shift work for the city. And then so I'd come and hang out at this girl's house, and she had some roommates. And one of her roommates was like, hey, I have a job interview, Chad, and you have a car. Can you take me to the interview, and I'll give you $20. The interview's like on the Quebec side in Gatineau. I was like, yeah, no problem. Like, I had nothing going on that day. I said, what's the interview for? She said, it's to work at the Olympics. And I was like, whoa, I want to work at the Olympics. How do I get an interview? Exactly. I was wearing like a hoodie and jeans. So I went and I printed off a resume, and I drove her to the interview, and she went in for the interview, and I just went to sat in the waiting room. She comes out of the interview. The guy who did the interview comes out behind her and goes, okay, who's next? And I'm like, me. And just like walked over to him, handed him my resume. He brought me in. They hired me like on the spot.
Oh, wow.
Like, I was like, so it was to work in the Athletes Village. So fast forward, like I left like a month later.
What is the Athletes Village? I'm unfamiliar. I'm not as into the Olympics as you.
Yeah. People aren't. That's where like all the athletes that are at the Olympics like live for the time.
All
of
the
Olympics.
hotels and stuff.
Yeah, it's not even hotels. They're like condos or apartments. It's like a fully functional village that they build in every city.
That's crazy.
It's like a mini city, like restaurants.
They build it? They don't just rent stuff out?
No, they build it.
No way.
Because then they reuse the facilities, and now it's like affordable housing, or whatever. I don't know if that's what it became, but like that's always the plan.
Or in Montreal, they have that giant Olympic pool that they just it's like an attraction now. You can go swim there.
And it's where the dome is. But so behind that dome, all those apartments was the Athletes Village.
Oh, cool.
There's like a whole like community of apartments, and that's where the athletes like lived when the Olympics were in Montreal.
That's pretty insane that they just build that every time.
The infrastructure.
I guess they have the money.
Yeah, the infrastructure is insane. Like, insane. And they're going to get, I don't know if they do, but like the developers who they bring on are going to like just sell those as condos, But like.
So if you're working in the village, are you just like a jack of all trades, whatever they need you kind of?
I did like security stuff, but also like I spent days like literally like carrying, like when the Japanese ski team came in, you like carry all their bags to their rooms, stuff like that. Like a lot of it's like they had to go through metal detectors in and out. So you like help them go through
a lot of language barriers there.
Yeah, a lot. My shift was like midnight to 10 a.m. So I didn't have like a ton of work during it, but it was always, there'd always be like a few people coming in and out, or a few
you were
flights
the
coming in.
overnight guy.
Yeah, which was awesome because in the day I could just go to events.
Oh, crazy.
Like, so 10 a.m. I'd leave my shift and just go to events. Like, because I had
No
a
sleep?
full pass. Well, like I would go to like events in the afternoon, or if I had a bunch lined up at night, like I would work it. That I'll sleep right after my shift because I want to go to downhill skiing at 3:00 or something.
I'm guessing you must have still been pretty tired a lot of the time.
Yeah, but it was like I was like on a high. Like, it was crazy. Like the one day, and like dignitaries and celebrities would come tour the village because it's like cool to see this village. It was like all kinds of like high tech stuff, and it's like really, really nice, and it's like in the mountains. So like one day coming through, I had to like check in Joe Biden. Like he just like came through the village with like, he was vice president.
Did he know where he was? Or no?
Yeah. He's like, where am I?
This is a while ago.
He actually,
He's younger.
Sleepy Joe fell asleep. It was crazy.
Did he really?
No, he did. Yeah, but that was cool. Like, it's like Joe Biden and the president of France came through, and like there's all kinds of celebrities. Like one night
That's crazy.
we went out to a restaurant, and in the restaurant was like Wayne Gretzky, Cindy Crawford, and John Bon Jovi. We're just all in the same restaurant. Like there was just celebrities.
That's like an 80s powerhouse
I know,
trio. Right?
And they weren't together, which was weird. Like they were like, I was like, you guys, probably all were on the same episode of
used
SNL.
the same
or something.
hairspray back in the day.
Yeah. It was crazy. It was like constantly, and I'm just like, was such a nerd for that stuff.
That's super cool.
It was awesome. Like it was like the experience of my lifetime. Like I think about that all the time.
So you never, I guess you'd have to be in the right city, but you've never been tempted to like approach them and say, hey, I've actually worked for the Olympics before.
So when they went to, I applied when the Olympics 2 years later, they were in London, England. And so I applied again. I didn't get it. But yeah, sometimes like I do apply because like you can just go and work for 3 weeks because they just need people, you know, to do, there's 1,000 little jobs. Like
it's like Blues Fest or something.
Exactly.
I mean, much bigger, obviously.
Yeah,
but.
yeah, exactly. And the money was sweet. Like I was making like good money at the Olympics. Like it wasn't like a volunteer basis thing. Yeah, it was awesome. I remember.
Did they put you up?
Yeah, put me up. Like food. The food is actually like hilarious. So they had like all of our meals were provided, and the chef in the village was Chef Michael Smith. You know, from the Food Network, tall guy, curly hair. He's like kind of a famous Canadian chef.
I don't know a lot of chefs, but
he's like
maybe if I saw him
in Canada, he's famous. He's got a bunch of Food Network shows. You'd probably know him to see him. So he did like all the food for the people who were working in the village. So that was one of your options, him making these amazing meals.
Wow.
And the other option was all you can eat McDonald's because they're a sponsor. So
what
like,
a weird like counterbalance.
it was so wild. And so you would like go and you would eat like
escargot or something.
Yeah. Someday he's like, oh, it's salmon. I was like, I don't love salmon, right? So I'm gonna go to all you can. So you have the best chef in the world.
Quarter pounders.
Yeah. Or all and like the McDonald's was like insane because like it was all free, so like no money exchanges. So you just like walk up and
That's
like
nuts.
the Polish bobsled team was behind you. Like they're all like jacked up because they'll eat McDonald's. They're just about power, you know what I mean? And
some referee and a McFlurry or just like
I'd be like, you know, can I get 3 Big Macs? And I would like put one in my bag for later and just crush 2 Big Macs. Like I put on so much weight at the Olympics, it was crazy. Just
That's like when you're at an all-inclusive or something. It's that same kind of feeling.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it does feel like you're robbing the place for some reason. You're like, wait, no, I paid for this.
Yeah.
Or it's part of the gig or whatever.
I was literally robbing the place. Yeah, I was literally. At one point, they like. I remember near the end, they started just giving people like vouchers for food. So you'd have to like hand them a voucher, so you could only get like 1 McDonald's meal because people were just like going crazy. They were like, yeah, can I get like 4 cheeseburger meals?
It's like the broken beer bottle thing all over again, right?
Yeah, it
it's
is.
a good thing
people
eventually.
will always take advantage. People will always ruin a good thing.
It's like open bars. That happens too. We went to Kelly's work party last year. You know, it's all fucking nurses and doctors, and some of these doctors make shit tons of money.
Right.
And they're nice guys. I've met some of them. And the one dude, I don't know, I can't remember his name now, but he was sort of hosting the Christmas party, and he just had like an open tab. You just go up, say his name, get whatever you want. But then, you know, by 1, 2 in the morning, they're like, yeah, that's not happening anymore.
Yeah,
he's
we gotta
gone
stop
now,
it.
you know?
Yeah, it's gotta end. That's what it's always gonna be that way. Like I get jacked up for an open bar. Like open bar, like let's go.
You're like, I'm gonna drink more than I was planning on.
Yeah. I gotta get my money's worth, which doesn't even make sense, but like you always feel that way, you know.
You made me think of Joe Biden. Have you ever heard Kyle Dunnigan's impression of Joe Biden?
No.
Have you ever? Do you know Kyle Dunnigan?
I don't.
I don't think he's Canadian, but he's done Just for Laughs way back in the day.
Okay.
He's like an impressionist largely.
Yeah.
And he does these videos where he does like the face swap technology. So it's, you know, he'll look like whoever he's impersonating.
Yeah.
He can make these sort of like clip art style videos where everything's kind of
that's
thrown
so
together.
funny. Yeah.
But his Joe Biden, he does the Fresh Prince of DC or something like that, and it's like Joe Biden loosely based around his life in the White House, and all the main players are there, and he's just great at all of them. But
In West
Joe
Delaware.
yeah,
Born and raised.
yeah, I think it probably Scranton, PA. I think.
Oh
he says.
yeah. Okay, I have seen this.
Yeah. And he's always like, oh, come on, man.
Which triggered my brain is I was like, oh, I didn't realize he was from Scranton, like where the office was. You know, like I didn't. I know he's like a Delaware. That's where he representative in the House of, because he was a senator. No.
Yeah, I think he did, or secretary, or I don't know. Really follow U.S. politics in a big way. I just think those skits are pretty hilarious. He does, you know, Caitlyn Jenner, and he does.
That's funny.
Just whoever's like, he did Alec Baldwin for a while when all that shit was going on.
That was
and
crazy.
It's pretty spot on.
Yeah. I gotta look it up.
Shout out to Kyle Dunnigan. I don't know the guy, but Okay, when did the comedy bug bite you then? When did like you shift away from odd jobs? Like, well, the beer store was quite a while, but you know, the Olympic thing was kind of an odd job.
So I took radio broadcasting in school, and Algonquin College, yeah. And then I worked in radio for a bit. So while I was working at the beer store, I was also doing like weekend shifts on air for the radio station in Brockville.
Cool.
And I did some like
just volunteer, like learning.
No, it was like I was like the paid weekend announcer,
like an intern or something.
Kind of, yeah. Like I had a shift. It was like 5 hours on Sunday was like my on air shift. And then I did a few other things like throughout when they needed me or go to events and stuff like that.
5 hour block. That's pretty solid though.
Yeah. 5 hour block was sweet.
And you could play whatever you wanted?
No. It was all like soft rock, like
Michael Bolton and shit.
Oh yeah. It was like, I forget the tag of the radio station because the cool one was Bob FM because it was like 80s, 90s and whatever.
Yeah,
so
you get a nice
like
variety.
80s rock, you know, some like early
some Hall
Green
& Oates
Day
or something,
stuff
maybe.
like that. Yeah. And but this one was like, like we'd play Hall & Oates, but it'd be like the really soft,
The worst
song.
one.
Yeah,
Celine Dion.
The friggin' Mariah Carey Christmas song during Christmas would be like literally every hour.
Oh, that's
but luckily I voice tracked. So like in radio, they do voice tracking a lot. So you don't actually listen to the songs. You go in and you record your whole show in an hour. So like you just like skip ahead and then it tells you what it's doing. No, a lot of it isn't live. Like the morning shows are usually live, but like if you're listening in the day, it's not. Like it'd be like
I've gotten that on CBC times. You know, they'll do like an airing of something that I heard a few days before sometimes, or the next week they'll play it again in the same time slot or whatever.
You generally know like what time it is. So how you can tell sometimes is they won't, instead of saying like, oh, it's 5:45, they'd be like, oh, we're coming up on 6:00. You know, you pull one of those little tricks.
Nice.
Or like the weather, you'd just be like, oh, it's sunny today. Like you're just very general about
Pretty
it because it
vague,
could, because it could like change, but you never like it's 13 outside or whatever it is. So I did that for a bit, and then I just kind of like always had an interest in comedy and that stuff, and then I had like just a lot of things like change in my life a few years ago, and honestly it was the Hall of Fame. Like it started with ad on LinkedIn. I like went through a breakup and I was like, oh, let's see what else is out there. Like want to change my life up, like one of those things, you know? And I saw an ad on LinkedIn for the Canadian Comedy Hall of Fame, and they were like hiring like a social media person. I was like, I could do this. Like,
I wanted to ask you about all of this.
Yeah. So I was like, I have like sometimes that false confidence where like I can do it. Sure. Why not?
Fake it till you make it.
Yeah, exactly. Which I'm learning, and it's gotten me places, kind of like just looking for an opportunity and like jumping on instead of being like, oh, I don't know if that's.
I mean,
not
you
right.
manifested the Olympics, dude.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Don't let anything
I'm always
stop
like,
you.
because I used to be like such a no person. I used to be like, oh, that's not right for me. You know what I mean? Like that's like, oh, I can't do this,
or I'm gonna screw it up.
And
or
I was
like,
what if I screw up? And it's like, oh,
I have a lot of that syndrome of like, I'm not a grown up, and they're like, oh shit, I have like 3 kids. I'm definitely a grown up.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, but
I have a recurring dream that I like missed an assignment in like grade 11, and
I have a high school play I'm always preparing for.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like on the bus trying to get this assignment done because the teacher's gonna get mad at me, and then I like wake up and I'm like, oh, I'm in my house and I have a kid and I have to go to my actual job in an hour. You know,
get
like
shunted back into
I always
actual
think
reality.
that. Yeah. But I'm like, I think I was just so scared of people saying no, and then like one day I was like, well, what's the worst that happens? They say no.
Yeah,
like
that's the best spirit. Yeah, especially
like,
with this kind of stuff.
I know with this, like, I always like throw out big asks when I'm looking for guests for my podcast. I was like, oh, they say no, okay,
yeah,
like, or
they might become aware of you
at all.
Even if they say no, they still might become aware of you, and then later check it out and go, you know, hey.
Or they say no this time.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the next time you ask them in a year, now you're on their radar, and they're like, oh, I've actually heard of this, or something like that. So.
Okay, so I wanted to, before we go further, because I was very curious about this. Like, you and I have met at some shows, and we always got along, and I knew we would have a rapport if we did something like this. But when I found out you had a podcast, and then I see the Canadian Comedy Hall of Fame, I'm like, that sounds official. Like, how did he get to be that guy? And I wanted to know, is it the same thing, right? That because when we had Chris Candy last year, he got me tickets to go to the Crack Up Comedy Fest, and I'm pretty sure that's where they were doing the Canadian Comedy Hall of Fame induction of John Candy.
Well, they gave them. So he was inducted in 2001, but his family never got the award. They never went or whatever to the ceremony because Jen and Chris are both in LA, so it just didn't work. So they were in town. So they gave him finally.
So it's just
the family got the award. Yeah, but he was the first person inducted.
So it is the same thing. Okay.
Yep.
And you said 2001
was the first induction.
Wow.
2000 or 2001. There was like the Royal Canadian Air Force was. Went in that year. Rich Little from Ottawa went in that year. John Candy, a few other people, and then they took this like big long hiatus.
I was largely unaware of it. I'm realizing now because I think
they did one induction back then.
I was mixing it up with the Canada Walk of Fame probably as well. It's kind of a similar. This is a more specific niche for comedy, but
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So just going back to so I see the LinkedIn ad. The guy like calls me 20 minutes after I apply and he's like, sure, you got the job. I was like, oh, sweet. Awesome.
Damn.
He's like, we got tons of content from like over the years that you can just use and just like build stuff and put it on social media. And I was like, cool, I can do that.
You're nailing these job interviews.
Yeah. It was like,
they sound very breezy.
Yeah. He's just like a very relaxed guy. So, and we just had a conversation. He was like, oh, this guy's interested in comedy. I love Canada in general. Like I love, like Canadian pride. I get like prideful when Canadians do well on like an international level. So like, I think I kind of showed him that. And then I burned through all that content that he said he had in like a month. Like it was gone. Like I started in December. By January, I had no more content to post. So I was like, okay, what am I going to do? I used to work in radio.
You're like, I should have stretched out that content a little.
Yeah, I was like, I'll start a podcast. So I'm like, hey, can I start a podcast? Use the Canadian Comedy Hall of Fame, their banner. It'll create content, and at least like people will be aware of us. And if we get a few listeners, and it's something I can at least post every time I do.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, sure. So that's where I kind of started and took off. And then,
very cool.
Yeah.
It gives you instant cred, it feels like, you know?
Yeah, when I like message...
Take it from a guy who's been doing it from his basement with his dad, and we don't really have a lot of cred. We had to build it from the ground up, you know?
But yours is like so much more impressive, like what you have and what you've put together.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Like the technology you have and like your space you do it in. I think when people like come up, they're thinking it's going to, he has this like team behind him. And I was like, no, it's just me and
bare
like
bones
a shittier microphone than this. And it's on Zoom,
but it's audio only for people who want to check it out, right?
Yeah. Audio only. Yeah. And I find like I did that at first as just an easier way to get guests. Cause like Jim Belushi did it from his phone. Like we chatted for
there is that accessibility. Yeah.
So it was a little, because like I didn't think it was going to do as well as it kind of has and like take off. For me, it was just like a content creator.
Yeah. And meeting all these people, I'm sure you revere a lot of these.
Exactly. Like
I was people who are up and comers or
and
whatever.
I'm like such a pop culture nerd in general that
Same
like
here.
people that don't like when I say something, like people my age are like, okay, who's like, I remember Red Green, but like who? And I was like, no, like I know I know Red Green is Steve Smith and he had the show before. Like I just know that stuff, and just from being a comedy nerd and like a television kid.
I almost got an interview with the other guy. I'm sorry, I'm not remembering his name.
Pat
now.
McKenna.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
It was always funny with the nerdy hair. And the big
he's
electric,
great.
Whatever the hell that thing was.
Yeah, that show's great, and it's like
I think I would appreciate a lot more now if I watched it than when I was a kid. I remember as a kid, it was kind of like, I don't know that I get this. It wasn't really for kids, I don't think. It was...
Yeah. No, it wasn't. It's like...
outdoorsmen in their 30s.
Yeah. It was like a parody of that. Like it's a sketch show.
Yeah, it's comedy fans as well,
essentially. They just do like sketches. I had Rick Green on who's like one of the creators of the show. And it was interesting, like, cause like...
Didn't he play the crazy guy?
Yeah, he played the crazy
Joe
guy.
or Jim or something?
I forget his name. Yeah. One of the...
I haven't seen that show in
If you
decades.
remember like the black and white sketch.
Yeah, it was always black and white.
Yeah. That's the character he played. So, so I just was like a huge comedy nerd and then started the podcast, and then that I kind of like...
So you weren't doing stand-up at that point?
No, I dabble. Like I did a few shows in my 20s. I like did one in college. I think I did one after my kid was born. She was born in 2015, but like not a lot. Like I like poked my head into stand up.
It's not at all what I was expecting.
Not at all.
I thought
like,
you were going to say you've been doing stand up way longer and you just recently started podcasting?
It's kind of like,
wow,
the stand-up thing is like just come later.
So wait, what timeline wise?
So I started the podcast. So stand-up, this is probably like within the last 3 years.
Damn. Okay. Well, then kudos to you, man, because I already thought you were really funny. I've seen you perform a few times now, but knowing that that's just in such a short amount of time, you're very much a natural. Damn.
Yeah, it's it just kind of like, again, it was like right place, right time, and it's like worked out for me. Like the Hall of Fame wanted me to host a show, like a comedy show. I kind of pitched them. I was like, hey, we should maybe think about doing a show at Comedy Bar in Toronto where you have like a sketch act, a stand-up, a musical comedy act, and just like show the gamut of comedy, but it's also a way of like promoting the Hall of Fame. So people that come to the show will be more aware of the Hall of Fame. It's like a monthly thing. They were like, great, that's an awesome idea. You should host it because you host the podcast. I'm like, no, I don't think so. Like, I just felt that was like very disrespectful to like stand-up comedians who work really hard to like host a comedy show. Like, no, there's people that like host comedy shows.
Yeah, but 3 years, I mean, you could host a show.
So this is before I've done stand-up.
Oh, okay.
So
You're
like
talking
previous.
way back in the day. Yeah,
This is previous. This is how like I got into stand-up.
Okay, my bad.
So I was like, I don't think I'm like that. And they were just like, no, you should. If you're gonna like help produce the show, you can host it. So
hosting's kind of a fun way to start too.
Yeah, it was kind of wild. And that show never took off. But so I was like, oh, I got to figure something out. So I started like just going to open mics and just like doing stand-up. And then it like, I had like a couple good sets that went really well. Somebody's like, hey, do you want to do this show? Do you want to do that show? And it was going good. And then I decided I want to do Yuck Yucks like once. And then I was like, okay, then I'm done. Like, I just want to say I did the Yuck Yuck show once.
Oh, interesting. You were planning on just...
Yeah, I was just like, it's taking like a lot of time. And it's, and then that's when like Howard, it was like an NTS night and Howard's like, get over here. Do you want to do the weekend? Like, he's like, do you want to do it? And I was like, okay, sure. Like, yeah, it was like a set that like went well in a tough room. And I've kind of just been, since then, I've just been doing it. You know, I've just been.
So like kind of a life pivot to some, I mean, you're already doing the podcast, you're in that world, but this is still.
I was definitely in that world. I was writing, I wrote like a TV show that ended up like going to Just for Laughs and like winning that.
I have that on here. I want to talk to you about that too.
So that all that started happening as well. And then the stand-up started like going good. So it all kind of just like within the like a 3-month span, like worked out, you know? Which was awesome.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah. It was a crazy run. But I also like, I feel like a lot of people, they just like, I'm really good at like, I watch everything over and over again. Like when I do a set, like last night's set was like fine. Like it was good. Yeah, but I've probably already watched it like 7 times. And I'm just like, what can change here? What can do different? Like I'm like very much like always, you know, on it now. Like I just.
Well, that kind of explains how you're doing so well after 3 years then, if you have that kind of tenacity for it.
Yeah, I like track every set I do. Like I have like this little card I keep in my pocket and I'll be like, okay, this worked, this didn't work. And then I like file it away of like what worked and what didn't. I've just become like obsessed with it. Like absolutely addicted.
Well, I'm like crazy excited to see where you'll be in like another 5 years then.
Yeah. Wow. Probably so.
Yeah, you're really tuned in. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
And in regards to your show, I wanted to say to people that you have always like 2 guests per episode, it would seem, or sometimes more. But
I just found it easier to like get people if I ask for a 20-minute commitment.
So these are separate interviews, back to back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So like people like Jim Belushi, which like was a good get for me. Like,
of course,
it had nothing to do, but I was like, oh, I kind of just said, hey, Dan Aykroyd is going into the Canadian Comedy Hall of Fame. We'd love to talk to you for 20 minutes about it. So like, that's how I got him. Right. Clever. So like, and he was like, I love Dan. I'd do anything for Dan Aykroyd. So I was like, sweet. Yeah, that was a wild one. That was a wild interview. But yeah, so, and then I just asked for 20 minutes just cause, and you know, sometimes people give me like way more. They give me an hour, which is sweet. And when that happens, it's awesome. The
standard I was seeing was about 2 half an hour episodes back to back in one episode.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I try to just keep it to, and like an hour long episode.
That's cool. That's a good runtime.
Yeah. It works.
Can't say that we do that here.
I love long form though.
We've had some short ones too. You know, 45 minutes is probably the shortest though, really.
I love like the conversational aspect because mine isn't like mine's very like question, answer. I try to get that conversational. But on
It
Zoom,
really
it's
depends on the
hard.
person too.
It depends
And it's
on
nothing against the other person. Someone who gives those more like point form answers, I don't like see that as a sign of disrespect or
Yeah.
something. It's just like people operate differently, and
Yeah,
especially
exactly.
Zoom has kind of like a corporate feel to it.
Yeah, I do the thing too where I just jump into the conversation. I don't like.
Oh, yeah, same here.
Yeah, I'm not like, all right, are you ready to start? Like, I'm just like, I ask my first question like literally within a minute of them getting on Zoom, and they're like, sometimes they're like, oh, we're
A little
starting.
jolted.
Yeah, which is fine because they always like. In the end, I think at first they're always like, whoa, but in the end they always like come back like when we're wrapping it up and we're chatting after the mic's been turned off. They're always like, oh, I actually appreciated that because I felt like just like a conversation was happening the whole time. It wasn't like. Yeah. So like you learn those tricks and stuff as the pod goes on.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure people go check it out because it's there, it's available. He's had some guests that have been on this show as well: Kenny Hotz, Fred Penner, Dave Merhej, Jennifer Candy. So if you like them and you're liking Chad, you can kick me out of the whole situation. That probably is not great marketing, but I don't care. I just hope they check it out. So. I did want to ask you I had written down here. What was your first stand-up gig, and what was like or what was your first paid gig? If there was any kind of a story behind that.
Good question. My first stand-up gig was at like an open mic in Oshawa. I don't.
That's like outside Toronto, right?
Yeah, just this side of Toronto, the Ottawa side of Toronto. I don't. I was like doing some work in that area in Toronto, and I was like, okay, I'll just go to this like open mic and do a 5-minute spot, and it wasn't like fine because I like had thought about what I wanted to say for a long time, and like I actually like wrote out jokes, which I feel like a lot of people don't do their first time.
There's some people who just try to. They think
like,
they can wing
I'm funny. Because I'm not the funniest person in my group of friends. Like I'm not. Like I'm kitchen table funny a little bit, but I'm like never like.
You wanted to be prepared.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
People aren't going to leave a party with me and be like, that guy's fucking funny. Like he kills me. Like I don't think that ever happens. But I think I'm like a good enough writer that I can like get by and I can like channel that and get in the zone to perform. So that was my first one. There wasn't like anything. It was like everybody's first set is like dirty and gross, like super dirty, super gross.
Yeah,
like,
you go for the F-bombs.
That's easy, right? And my first paid one, I don't know. I can't remember my first.
They must not have paid you that much.
I know. I don't know. I remember the first time I wasn't
really counting like when you get like $10 in a beer, like the first time you make like $50 or something.
It was definitely at Yuck Yucks. It would have been Yuck Yucks. Downtown.
Coincidentally, $50 is the most I've ever been paid for comedy.
It would have been on the Kent Street one in the hotel, and I think Tavis was hosting.
Nice, the best. He was hosting last night.
Dude, he is the best host. Like
his show on here, his more recent episode has like 10,000 views, which is not the average episode count.
I could listen to that guy talk all day. Like
he's just so funny and so off the cuff, natural, calm.
So calm. He's a great host. I do better any show he's hosting. I feel like.
I feel like you're in good hands.
I mean, great. Yeah, he brings you up the right way. He's an awesome host. So he was hosting. I think Chris Robinson was the headliner.
Okay, I'm vaguely familiar.
Yeah, he's from Toronto. I did like the whole weekend, which was like exciting, like 8-minute spots or something. That was my first time getting paid like in a comedy club. Yeah, which is cool. It was freaking awesome. Like I saved the check. I want to get it framed. Like I haven't yet, but it was the coolest thing ever to get like a check to your house that says like Yuck Yucks on it. Is like, oh, this is super neat.
That's like a nostalgic little thing you could frame.
Yeah, exactly.
I would probably do that.
Yeah. Throw it up on a wall somewhere. Yeah.
So do you have plans moving forward for like the usual like goals, like album/tour?
I wanted to do stand-up in New York City this year, so I did that. My goal was to do stand-up in New York and LA. So I still want to do, and I don't like, my goal was to like not do like one of those where you like pay $5 to get 5 minutes of stage time. Like I wanted
to bring 10 people or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's not the goal. I wanted to do like a real spot, and I got one in New York, which was cool.
Was it like a notable place, or not that matters that much?
No, it was a place in Brooklyn. I forget what the name of the club is, and I should remember. Something. It started with a T. It was like very cool. But it was like a real like club that like brings in headliners. They had a like competition. So first I asked for this like competition spot. So at 5 o'clock, they do like a competition where they have like 10 comics do like 3 minutes, and the winner gets a spot on the pro show.
Jesus.
So I was like, I want that spot. So I like messaged them. I was like, hey, I want to be part of this competition. It's like free to do the competition. They sell tickets to it. And I sent them like my credits and everything. And he's like, do you just want a spot on the pro show? And I was like, yes, that's even better.
Oh,
like, we'll
fuck
put you
yeah.
on. So yeah, that was sweet.
Dang.
And that was just like just asking for something, you know.
I
And-
wanted to kind of get a spot when we were in LA in September, and first of all the spots were like 3 minutes. Everything I
Oh
was
yeah, a lot of
finding.
3 minutes in the States. Yeah.
Which, I mean, you were just referencing,
Yeah.
I don't know. I had
Yeah.
a song I wanted to do, and I think it was like 3.5 or something. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's all I was seeing there. It was really, really hard to, or you have to. I emailed something a week before for the Comedy Store, but then they probably get so many.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
Yeah. I see
So-
people getting spots there though. It's crazy. Like they must do a lot of like open mic type stuff, or like, yeah.
The only open mic thing I found was on a Sunday night in like this small room. I think that's
belly
the
room?
belly room. Yeah,
Yeah.
you go up some stairs, and it was fucking packed. And we were tired. We'd been traveling, and Kelly was like, "I'm gonna just stay at the hotel if you don't mind." She's seen me perform these
Yeah.
songs and shit enough. She's like, "You go,
Yeah,
break a
yeah.
fucking leg."
Yeah.
I'm gonna take a nap. And so I went, but you know, you get there, you're alone, and it was super packed. And then I thought it was. I thought it was 3 minutes because that's what I've been reading everywhere, and I already thought that was really short.
Yeah.
And then I asked the guys like, "So yeah, how much time do we get?" And they're like, 2 minutes, and I'm like, "Fuck, I can't even play the song that I was
no.
gonna play." So I kind of chickened out and
Yeah.
just was like, "Yeah, no, the hotel is down the street, and I could easily just crack a drink and
Yeah.
order room service." And
That's brutal.
I was on my honeymoon, so
Yeah,
I didn't want
yeah.
to be stressing out. You know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, that's wild. Like all those places, like even in New York, like, yeah, like 2-3 minute spots, which is like,
I think it's very doable for a lot of styles of comedy. Just
Yeah.
the stuff that I had prepared was like musical, and I don't have a lot of 1 minute songs, you know,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
2 minute
exactly.
songs. So,
yeah.
yeah, it is what it is. You know, looking back now, I'm kind of bummed that I didn't do it. But anyways, I hijacked your story with you were talking about New York and getting spots.
Oh
there.
yeah, 'cause that was my goal for this year, and then so in 2024, I think I want to like I'd like to do like a spot in LA, which I think would be cool. I don't know if I have like any like concrete goals. I'm kind of just like taking everything as it comes. I want to do a live version of my podcast, like at a comedy festival of some
Nice.
type, where I get like a cast of a Canadian TV show or something.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I think that's something.
Like a Comic-Con panel kind of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like that's something I want to do on the
I would love to do
podcast
that stuff
side.
too, yeah.
I want to do like more stand up in Toronto. I've done like a few at Absolute and stuff there, but I definitely want to like break into that because I do like Montreal and Ottawa a lot, but
That's further.
not-
Yeah.
it's just like that much further. But I'm like in Brockville, I'm like that much closer too. So it's like not as hard.
Nice.
It's not crazy for me to like drive to Toronto and drive home in the same day. Like that's not.
What, it's like 3.5 each way or something?
I could do it. Like I can get like downtown Toronto in 3 would be
From Brockville?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I could do 3 easily.
Yeah, that's not so bad then.
No, it's not crazy. I mean, it's a little crazy for like a 10-minute spot. So I just want to do more there. So I think it's just like more opportunities is what I'm looking for, like goal wise. So yeah.
Yeah, I guess I was asking album stuff that might be a little too, like
don't-
more in the future, but
I've done like some recording of stuff, and
some people do like 15-minute albums or 20-minute albums. There's
Yeah.
no real rule.
right. I'm too because when I'm doing like a longer like 15-minute set, I'm just like all over the place. Like I am like pointing out stuff that's happening in the audience. I'm doing callbacks, and I've recorded stuff. Like I have like a 20-minute recording, but it's like, what do I like? I'm calling back to 3 comics ago. Nobody's gonna get that on the recording, you know. And I find it hard to like compromise my like style for that. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to just go up there and do my jokes.
Well, again, when I wrote this down, I didn't know you were only 3 years in. I would have thought you were way longer than that. So
yeah.
I recently did stand up for the first time in months and months.
Right. I remember you saying that.
It was
Yeah.
last week.
Yeah.
So do you mind if I read you the thing that I did for the first half?
Yes. Yeah.
It's originally I wanted to write a song. I usually go musical, and I wanted to just kind of do like the year in review.
Yeah.
Just talk about some notable things from 2023. But I realized, okay, screw it. I don't even want to bring the guitar. It's just extra stuff to stress about when I haven't done stand up in
Right.
months, and I just kind of want it to go well. So I decided I was going to write it out like sort of like poetry, or like it ended up being sort of like Dr. Seuss, like just the year in review. So that's what I did. I read this. So I said, January, things got intense on the very first day when the powers that be almost took Hawkeye away. Mr. Renner nearly died. You already know how. He was violently crushed by a massive snowplow. And then I stopped there and I compliment myself for rhyming know-how and snowplow. Chef's kiss kind of thing. I have that written down. Stop for chef's kiss. But Jeremy prevailed and he's doing quite well, narrowly surviving his own personal hell. As for being an Avenger, well, I think he should quit because Mark Ruffalo totally would have stopped that shit. And then I leaned over to some old lady. I was like, he plays the Hulk, you know.
Yeah.
February, Tom Brady retired after a stellar career spanning over 2 decades. This was finally the year. Giselle might just love it. Perhaps she'll be elated. Yet nevertheless, their marriage quickly deflated.
Oh my God. That is a great friggin' pun.
Thank you.
That is amazing.
Thank you.
Did the crowd get that?
Yeah.
Deflategate?
Yeah. I really felt like the crowd was into it. Like I did really well, I think.
Yeah.
My first joke, I'll tell you after, because I broke up in the crowd, I felt like a bit.
Yeah.
Because there were some ladies up front that were like, it was one of their birthdays. She's 51, and they were nice. I talked to them after, but it took them a little while to get warmed up, let's just say. And to be fair, George Asili was Bullet, so he kind of came out and told everyone that he could kick their ass. And
Was he hosting?
no, he just had the first spot. So he told these women they were all his ex-wives.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Which, if you've never seen George, he's a commanding presence is the best way to put it.
Yeah, stupid.
Yeah, it can be great. It can go super well.
Yeah.
And it can go like it did that night, which
I love him.
the crowd wasn't feeling it for Bullet spot.
I love the energy George Asili brings to a room.
Yeah, he's a very interesting character, and I've seen him just destroy before, so I never doubt that can work.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel like it was they weren't digging it. Anyways, I didn't. So I then said I don't have anything for March, April, May, so let's just skip to June. At the start of the summer, news websites were loaded after a small custom vessel named the Titan imploded.
Oh my God,
we learned a lot about building a submersible boat. Mainly, it shouldn't be controlled with an Xbox remote, which I know
great, dude.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm doing this now, not to just be like, hey, check out my jokes, but these are only going to be topical for now.
No, you got
basically.
it. Yeah, exactly.
And I don't perform that often. We've talked about this on the show many times. July, U.S. Congress confirms UFOs are quite real. The public at large wasn't sure how to feel. Do aliens exist? This is truly a shock. Then we all quickly reverted to scrolling TikTok. Then I did August. August wrapped up with one very sad marker: the untimely passing of the late great Bob Barker. At last, it was time that we all said goodnight to the most wonderful host of The Price is Right. I imagine his soul ascended into the sky by climbing a mountain with that little yodeling guy.
That's great.
Only about half the people got that. My kids didn't get that.
No, yeah.
And then this one I felt like I was punching down, but October, another sad celeb passing hit us in the fall. Matthew Perry gone. Whew, didn't see that coming at all. Lesson learned, though, that if you feel kind of woozy, probably shouldn't do ketamine and hop in a jacuzzi. It felt kind of mean.
I like the way
one.
you said that you're hopping a jacuzzi.
Yeah, because I liked him. He was funny. He gave me a lot of laughs. Mm-hmm. And then December was just wrapping up the year I wrote. Now, as we get ready to embark on a new year, here's a quick little tip so you won't live in fear. Just follow the lead of a climate change denier and casually ignore when the world is on fire. So anyways, I appreciate you letting me
awesome.
Share that.
How much does it suck in your head that you're like, I can only do this once? Because I'm sure that went really well.
Yeah, it did go well. And then I did a song that I sang a cappella because I didn't want to bring my guitar, and it also went well. So I felt really good about it. But yeah, it kind of sucks that it's so specific to this time frame, but I really enjoyed the process. I wrote all that the night before the set.
Right.
I typed it all up, just kind of powered through.
Yeah.
And it made me realize I need to do that more. So with a more universal topic that's not time sensitive or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
It really kind of sparked something in me where I'm like, oh, if it's the certain right type of wordplay, I can do this.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. That's why I stick to songs a lot, because I find writing lyrics, once I have the concept, the making it rhyme sort of is pretty easy to me. I don't know.
I started doing this gig with Dan Allaire on his radio station where we write like a weekend update type segment for it every week.
Out in Cornwall, yeah?
Yeah. So it's on the Boom, the chorus stations out there. I think it's Boom. And it's super fun, but it's also like awesome just to write. Like I do like pop culture and international news, and then he does like local stories. And I love like pushing that limit. Like I did one of the jokes last night. It was, hey, Tony Hawk's son married Kurt Cobain's daughter.
Yeah.
And Courtney Love was like, let's make it a shotgun wedding.
Oh, that's a great one.
People hate that joke though. Like,
I turned to my dad and he was like, no. And I was like, what? You don't think she did it? I clearly have watched more conspiracy documentaries about that than my dad has.
It's so funny because it's like, I don't have an opinion on it and I'm not, but people just instantly hate me for it, The other one I wrote for it. It's funny because like these go out on public radio and that's okay. But like in a comedy club, it gets like, oh, like people like get, I'm like,
weird.
This is on radio. Like this is like your kids can hear this joke in the car, like.
I guess they assume they won't get it. It'll go over their heads or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's kind of like a long time ago now, realistically.
Yeah. The other one was like, Oscar Pistorius, the Blade Runner, was released from prison. Prosecutors appealed the decision, but the judge decided they didn't have a leg to stand on. Which is like, again, people get mad at it, but I'm like, I'm making fun of Oscar Pistorius who murdered his wife.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I think he's fair game. Like,
he's no angel, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, but what I hate about those jokes is like, last night, that's the last night I can say that. That Kurt Cobain joke is like, that's it. Like that happened 2 months ago. Now,
yeah, I see what you're saying. That's like one of those late night talk show jokes that's pretty topical.
That is like, I would love to write like for a late night talk show.
That was how I approached those things that I just read. I was like, oh, just take like one thing from each month and try to make it like, what's the funny little spin at the end? And I made it kind of limericky, like a leprechaun or something. But I was definitely had that sensibility because I've always watched those shows and just loved that whole
those short
world.
Yeah, and like really good ones, like the Weekend Update SNL. Like I always say, like that's my dream job, not to be on the like to do it, just to write it. Wow, like write jokes. Like I would love.
Have you seen those Please Don't Destroy guys?
Yeah, they're great.
They're fucking hilarious.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Oh my god, I binged all their videos one day on Instagram or whatever, YouTube, and they're just those guys, right? Please Don't Destroy. I showed you the trailer for their movie about the treasure in the mountain.
I haven't seen the movie yet.
It was good. Yeah, it was consistent with everything I've seen from them. I enjoyed it. It's like a dumb, fun comedy.
Yeah.
But those three dudes and Conan O'Brien's in their movie.
Oh yeah. I haven't watched it yet.
So watch their shorts though. You can just on the SNL Instagram page. You can kind of, or I think even they have an Instagram as well.
Yeah.
And it's just all the skits from SNL that they've done, and sometimes they involve whoever the guest is, but they're freaking. Just fantastic.
I wanted to see their live show at Just for Laughs, but it was like sold out in minutes. Like this year, this past year, like it was like in minutes. I went to a panel though that they were on, so they like talked about they couldn't talk about a lot. They talked about like their career and coming up, but the strike was on, so they couldn't like talk about SNL or like the movie coming out. But it was cool. They were super interesting to like.
They have a really cool chemistry, and it's. Not that often that you see the trio. Yeah. You see a lot of pairs in comedy, but I mean, the Three Stooges, fine. But these guys kind of remind me of like Workaholics. It was another trio. Where they all just kind of balance each other out in this great way.
Musical, but like Lonely Island.
Lonely Island as well. Yeah.
They like, which is cool. And like, their stuff, like a lot of the times, like their sketches on the SNL ones, they're just like in their office, which is clearly their office, and they're just like filming like a crazy thing between them, and they'll have like the guests come in and cameo, but it's so friggin' awesome. Like
I think the first one, I listened to a couple podcasts with them, and the first skit, if you do end up going through them, was the one about it's like JCPenney hard seltzer. They're just like making a joke about how every company has a hard seltzer. I'm drinking a JC or whatever. Yeah. And then they're like, oh, maybe there's one in the desk, and the desk has one. It's just called Desk.
Desk hard seltzer. Yeah, that's so awesome. Like I love stupid stuff like that.
Well, that's like Kids in the Halls kind of. Not stupid, but like, inane humor. Non sequitur stuff where it jumps around and you're just like, it's funny because it's so weird and bizarre.
I love weird. Yeah. It's so funny how like I think like people don't like. I'll be like at a party and I'll say something, do something weird, and people are like, "What is this guy doing? Like, what is happening?" Like people don't get it all the time, and that's like super fun. Like if I showed my dad that hard seltzer sketch, he'd be like, "I don't get this." Yeah. Like I don't get, and
it's
that's
true.
Funny
Comedy
to me.
is so specific to the person,
so subjective. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think we talked pretty much about the podcasting. Oh yeah, I wanted to talk to you about the writing thing because you were the winner of this is a joint thing between JFL and CBC, I gathered.
Yeah.
The comedy pitch program. So you, along with your cohort, Tyler Eames.
Yeah.
Tyler Eames. You may have said his name earlier. I apologize. So you guys have, what is this, a series or a one-off short film?
Yeah. So
9 Months to Die?
In COVID, so Tyler and I met because our children were both born premature. So we met in the hospital and we became like fast friends.
You talked about it in your stand-up about the baby looking like a squirrel.
Man, people hate that. And I'm like, so I haven't done that joke because I think it's funny and it used to do really well. And so I like last night I was like, okay, I'm going to build up my kid to start. Like, she's cute. She's awesome.
Exactly.
And then tear her down. And then, say that she was an ugly baby.
You there.
No, that's all right. I change it myself all the time. Yeah. So we met in the hospital. Kids were born. We became like fast friends. And then in COVID, we were like catching up. This is like 6 years later. And I was like to Tyler, I was like, I was doing stand up at the time. I was doing the podcast. And he's like, what else do you want to do? I was like, I'd love to like write something. I have this idea for a TV show. I was dealing with like a lot of anxiety around my death, just death in general.
I get that.
And I was like, it would be how like my idea for a TV show was like basically the Grim Reaper just following this guy around, like, and like just like
why is he holding off on killing him?
Yeah. No, he just like hangs out. Have you ever seen the show Wilford?
Yeah.
So it's like kind of like he can only see him. He's like around, and they're just like hanging out, and they have like this relationship. So that's what I was thinking for the show, but and I told Tyler about it. He's like, we should write this show. Tyler's like super animated, like gets really into stuff. And I was like, yeah. And we're like drinking on Zoom. It's like, yeah, we should. It's like that thing that all dudes do where they're like, we should open a bar. Yeah, we should start a band.
And 99% don't.
Yeah, nobody does, right? But the next day he sends me like scene 1, episode 1.
That's awesome.
He like wrote, he's like, just ideas, wrote it out. And I was like, oh, we're doing this. So we did it like every week or like few days. We jumped on Zoom and we would like talk about what we were going to do. Then we'd go our separate ways, like write. And we were accountable to each other.
Brainstorm and stuff.
Brainstorm on Zoom. Okay, you're going to write this scene. I'm going to write this scene. Put it all together. Made a whole like show Bible. Filmed an opening credits sequence with a film company.
How many episodes do you end up with?
Well, we've only wrote 1 episode. We have a Bible for 10 episodes.
So that's like the kind of the cliff notes on what the overall stuff's going to be.
Yeah, exactly.
You just got to flesh it out. Okay.
For sure. And then through the podcast, I like talked to a guy named Chuck Tatham, who was a writer on like How I Met Your Mother and producer on Arrested Development, Modern Family. Sent the script to him. He liked it, and he was like, "Oh, this is great."
Wait a minute.
Yeah,
well, I know.
He's just
manifesting shit.
I know.
He's
left,
just,
right, and center.
He's just on this show and that. How do you meet these guys?
Through the podcast.
This one was through the podcast.
So he comes on the podcast.
Okay.
So I use like my podcast, hookup to be like, "Hey, we wrote this script." Kind of like if you have a moment.
Yeah.
And he wasn't working on anything at the time. I think he was doing like. What show just ended?
So Ollie, you got to do that. You got to start shilling your stuff on the show.
Yeah. That's what. Yeah, that's all you got to do.
I mean, I don't have a screenplay written or a show. I've had lots of ideas, but
yeah. And so he he looked at it. He was like, "Oh, this is great." Told us what he would change and that type of stuff, which was really cool. We sent it off to the Just for Laughs competition again. Like, okay, we'll send this. We'll see what
on
happens.
A whim almost.
Yeah, it's kind of like it was like a $50 entry fee or something that we okay, and we didn't think about it for like 2 months, and then we get like a call from this girl Rachel from LA, and she's like, "Hey, we're selecting you guys to bring you to Just for Laughs." We're like, "Oh, that's crazy!" And for us, like that was the win. Like that was
you're already being considered.
Yeah, we got considered. This is the craziest thing ever.
Because that shows that the show has legs regardless of if you win this next thing or not. You're like, okay, well, this isn't crap.
And we're like, okay, now we're in the room with these people.
Yeah.
Like other writers that were pitching when we were there were like people that were writing on the show The Boys and like people that are writing on This Hour is 22 Minutes. And then there's like Tyler and Chad, Like it was so crazy. And just like be in the room with like producers and, we had like, when we were there, we had like meetings with like Amazon and stuff. It was insane. Anyway, so we do our thing. Like it goes fine. Like our pitch is like funny, like we do like a stand-up thing. It's like a little emotional because it does have to deal with like death and stuff, and then like our kids were like fighting for our lives, and that's how they met, and like that's tied into the story, so we talked about that. And then we kind of just like we did the pitch. We like left. We went and got lunch, and then they came and like found us, and they're like, "You guys won!" Like, and we're like, "What?" And we just like bawled because we're like, "Oh, this can change our lives."
This is 2022, right?
This is 2022. Yeah.
So what is the status now on
The
this?
status is, so we like talked to a few like production companies, and we've like shopped it around a lot. Talked to CBC, who like ended up picking us to win.
Yeah, like they don't help you try to find the production company?
Not necessarily. I mean, they have like stuff lined up probably before that pitch happens. The one, so they didn't do pitches, I think, in the 2 years of COVID. So the one that won in 2019 just got made in 2023.
Oh, wow.
So if there is like
Catch 'em
and like
up.
even somebody was telling me like Jerry D's show, like he pitched it, I think, at one point, and it like took 4 years. So I'm like, okay, we're still in the, because it all of this stuff happens like so quick, and you're like emotional about it and you're excited, and you're like, do I quit my job tomorrow? Like, is my life changing? And then it like slows down, you know?
Yeah.
But
then it's going to get exciting again in like 2027 or
yeah,
something.
something will come, you know,
Yeah.
of it. So it's like a good story, and I think it has legs, and like we just gotta like put in the work to like really sell it again, and you know, get
When
it out there.
you mentioned Wilfred, I had an idea for a show a long time ago I never really did anything with, but I wanted to do like this kind of drunk dude who gets fired from his job, and then you have a whole first episode
Yeah.
about that, like showing his life a bit, and then he fucks up for the last time kind of thing, and ends up at some bar kind of in an alley he's never gone down before, like maybe it's a magic bar kind of
Yeah.
thing you think afterwards, but the only bottle they have is some old, you know, antique looking bottle, and he runs out of there with it trying to steal it because he doesn't have very much money. He just got fired. And long story short, there's like a genie in the bottle, but the genie just doesn't want him to really like he wants to be his friend and just hang out because he's
Yeah.
been in the bottle for so long. So
Yeah.
he doesn't really want him to make his wishes, and he's trying to stall, or I can't remember the specifics, but
Yeah, that's kind of because our like I had that like Wilfred idea, but our script has gone like so far from that. Like that's not even like that was like I like the
That's just
show
a jumping off point.
That was like a jumping off point, and then like the death thing was like a jumping off point, and then now it's like a completely different. It's like a road trip story of this guy in the Grim Reaper, where they're like
that's
road
cool.
tripping across Canada because they've like made a deal.
oh, that's awesome.
But it's
What,
still
he's going to help him collect souls or
yeah,
whatever.
he's basically is like he's gonna let this guy live to see his unborn baby like in 9 months. The show's called 9 Months to Die. If he shows him around, like kind of on a road trip, like across the country, like because he's
awesome.
like he's a Grim Reaper. He comes here all the time, but he never like hangs out and stays, and he doesn't really know a lot about humans or like you know that type of thing.
He wants to become more immersed in
Yeah, exactly.
culture and stuff.
Yeah,
Okay,
for sure.
interesting.
So
That
that's
sounds
what
great.
like what we came up with, and we've like written out, and yeah. So I mean, I'm still optimistic that something happens for it. Even like I think it'd be cool to do like a web series, you know, with it. Like at this point, like at first you think like, oh, this is going to be on CBC. Like,
Yeah, massive.
They're going to play it after Hockey Night in Canada. This is going to be. It
could be. You never
This is
know.
going to be it, right? But yeah. But now you're like, okay, like we also like understand like who we are in the game. Like we don't have any credentials behind.
Yeah, and casting plays such an important
Yeah, exactly.
role, too.
Yeah, and
That
I'm
can
like,
make or break a project.
I'm a terrible actor. Like they're like, are you going to be in it? I was like, absolutely not. Like
Yeah.
I might be like gas station attendant number
But I'm
one.
sure you guys would love to have a pick on who gets the main
for
roles
sure.
and stuff. you know?
Yeah.
If
We've
you've written
gone
those
to like
characters.
places and had conversations where they've like talked about that. So like that gets exciting, but nothing's like really taken that like next step. But honestly, we haven't taken that next step in a little bit. So it's on us a little bit. You know?
Well, it'll be fun to see whenever it does materialize.
Yeah.
We'll be looking out for it and
Yeah.
plug it when it comes out.
Yeah, for sure.
I just remember too that story that I was making up. I had it backwards. The genie wants him to hurry up and make his decisions and make his wishes. So you got this ornery genie who just wants to go back to the peace
this guy
of
wants
his
a
land.
friend?
Yeah, and he's like destitute. Is that the word? When you're kind of like fired and shitty and lonely, right?
Yeah.
Did I use that right? Okay. I always check with my dad because he's pretty good with words. And you're a good word guy.
Wordsmith.
There you go. See, you know, apparently you're a good word guy too. But yeah, so that I had that a little bit backwards. It was supposed to be him kind of annoying this genie, and I was going to call it Bottled Up. Like,
Oh,
you
dude,
know,
I like that.
I'm good at like names and shit. I'm like an idea man, but I hate
Yeah.
the follow through of like, oh, now I got to type it.
Yeah, the follow through
God.
is like painful. I know. Yeah.
I know that's just being lazy, but I got 3 kids. I got excuses.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
You don't have to justify my
No,
shit.
you got excuses, dude.
Okay, well, there's a few things. Okay, one thing I want to touch on, which is completely unrelated to everything, but I didn't want to forget it, and I did forget to put on the notes, is during this sort of hiatus we've been on, the weirdest fucking thing ever happened down here in this basement. It's pretty fucking weird, where we have like a little switch and a knob up there that you shut off for the hose outside in the winter so the lines don't freeze or whatever, right? So we lift it up, and we always do that every year, and we've never really like
in the ceiling?
Yeah.
Okay.
For anyone, I don't know if they can really see on the podcast, but we've got those like panel ceiling things you have in school where you can push them up. So we never really took a gander around in there. And so when I was doing this time, I looked the other way and I see like old technology from like the 80s basically, right? So like a VCR front and like a mini TV, like one of those really small TVs with some sort of faceplate. And I'm just like pulling this down. I'm like, okay. And I'll just find like a bundle of wires. I'm like, all right. And it just kind of kept happening. And then we started shining the light down there. And there was just like little pockets of like this destroyed computer from, I want to say, maybe the early 90s.
That's cool.
Yeah. And like, it didn't make a lot of sense because the outer, the box part that goes around the actual components of the computer, that was like completely bent straight from its regular, rectangle shape or whatever, so that they could fit it up there. And it weighed a fuck ton. Like, and the lady we bought this house off, I think she was like a nun or something. She was like 80. So like, I don't know.
Can't trust those nuns.
It was very weird to just keep finding more and more pieces from a computer. And like,
You said there was a VHS tape?
there was no tapes. There was
the
the front of like a VHS, but it was all pretty destroyed in like fragmented pieces.
Yeah.
It literally looked like someone hated their computer and hated their whole setup, beat the shit out of it with a baseball bat,
Just
and then
stuck in the
felt
rafters.
embarrassed or something
Hide
and
it
like
away.
decided to hide it all, which is just so weird. So
It sounded like there was some illegal shit on there.
this is where it
and
led
they're
us.
like but they didn't want it to be like traced back to them, so they just hid it. Like,
We called my
destroyed-
dad that day, and Kelly, she was the one, my wife, eventually she said, it's either criminal or crazy. And we were all debating on, is this crazy or criminal? Because I still lean towards crazy based on, it was too old of a computer to have, I would think, much like files to need to hide. And why wouldn't you just throw it out? Like if no one would question you throwing out your old computer, they wouldn't be like, oh, there's got to be, sketchy drug deal, money or something, or I really couldn't fathom what could be on there. So, but yeah, a lot of it weighed a lot. It's just very weird. And it was just sitting above our heads when we're down here. Like a lot of it was right above my dad and it weighed a lot. It just like could have been
crashing.
It was a little more over there, but so it was, I have one photo. I should have taken pictures as it was happening, but I took one picture when we had it all out in the back. It'd been snowed on a bit and it was kind of getting ready to go out with recycling, which apparently I was told I should have sent it somewhere else. My dad said computer stuff, right? Shouldn't put it out in the trash. Well, we did. So I'll put that picture up if I can find it. But it's just one of those stories that I just had to tell on the podcast because it was so fucking weird when it happened.
That is weird.
Even I kind of forget about it and then I'll remember and be like, yeah, what the fuck? We've
You
lived
always
here
hear
for
like people like opening up
years.
like a place in their house. Like I opened up a wall and there was like all this like crazy old magazines or something in it.
Or an old Superman comic worth like $2 million.
That would be awesome.
I get old broken bullshit.
I went up in my attic recently because I had a flood and it was all, I didn't realize that it was all, there's lights up there. So it was all like wired and everything. So I could and like flooring, like I could make another room. I was like, oh, my house just got way bigger.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I was like pumped. I was like, what's going to go up here? Podcast video, maybe.
That's sick.
Yeah.
Damn.
Sweet.
Little nook.
A little nook. Yeah. It was awesome.
A hidden secret nook. I love it.
I was pumped.
I wanted to ask you because, and I don't know, when comics are doing stand-up, you never know if it's like how much of it is true or not.
Yeah.
And I know that you're divorced, a fellow divorcee. I'm remarried now, but I was once divorced. And you say in your act that you were married to an MMA fighter.
Yeah, so she does Muay Thai.
So it was always your turn to take out the garbage, right?
Yeah, exactly. She does Muay Thai, so it's not like really MMA, but she has like fights, like
She's a badass chick, though.
yeah.
Could she kick the shit out of you easily?
What's that?
Could she kick the shit out of you easily, you think?
You know what? I always say this, and I don't know if I always say like I would like to fight her,
Just to see who would
like
win.
MMA rules, like, and it's not like a domestic thing. Like it's like we get along great.
It's not a sexist
We're
thing.
friends.
It's just like
I want to put my skills,
It's like arm
my
wrestling.
non Muay Thai skills against her in like an MMA fight, and it's obviously a hypothetical, and she is like adamant, and like a lot of my friends are adamant too, that she would like kick my ass.
I would lean that way, but I don't know how tall she is and kind of like what her stats are.
My height.
I'm taking her already.
Yeah, but like,
not that you look like horribly out of shape or anything like that, but
I just feel like I probably have 60 pounds on her. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So like that's my thing. Like I was like, I don't know though. I don't know. And like straight, like we're not doing this to like mangle each other. We're doing this as for like a competition.
Just
who
to
would
settle
win
it once and
in
for
a
all.
fight.
Yeah.
Right foot to the head and you're done.
Yeah,
That's what I was gonna say. She's gonna pull some technique on you.
My friend's like, have you ever been punched in the nose, like directly in the nose where your eyes water? And I was like, no, I haven't.
And I don't want to be.
No, and I don't want. And he's like, she would hit you in the nose once, and it would be done. Like you'd be over, because she's used to getting punched in the nose. Like I could, you know what I mean? She's just used to that now. Like she knows how to like fight through that first
sucks.
nose shot. I know. Yeah, it's crazy. But there's one time where
People get the ears all blown out.
yeah, the cauliflower ears. There's one time where she was like, hey, I'm working on this like front kick. Can I show you it? And I was like, yeah, sure. This is when we were living together. And I was like, yeah, sure, you can show it to me. And she's like, just stand here. I'm like standing on like a landing. She's like, I'm not going to hit you. I'm just like trying to get my distance with this front kick. And I was like, cool. And she booted me off the landing, like hit me right in the chest. I went like flying into like all these shoes and like a coat rack, and just absolutely like she got her distance right on it and nailed me. And that's when I was like, okay, she's got
Yeah, and you still think you have a chance. I don't know.
Yeah.
Now I kind of want to see this fight, to be
But
honest.
I think it would be fun, you know? Yeah.
I'd pay.
Yeah, people would. Yeah. That would be like a fun like reality shows, like if people were like married to like MMA fighters, they have to like fight their
spouse.
ex, like, you know, fight
Spouse
spouse
battle.
wars.
So, yeah,
or
spouse
something.
wars. Yeah, that's probably a better
Or if
name.
they do like some kind of talent, you know, and then so I have to fight her in MMA, and then she has to do 5 minutes at Yuck Yucks or something. That would be the competition, right?
That'd be cool. Yeah, like a job swap,
or like
couple job swap show or
with
something like that.
exes.
Yeah. Oh, with X's.
With
X's.
X's, so like the stakes are just that much higher.
That's true. Yeah, X's that are on semi-good terms. I think, people would watch that.
I think it would be fun. I just thought of it. Look at that.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll get on
We're
Zoom
on
and I'll
this
send you
there.
the first episode breakdown by
First
tomorrow.
episode, season 1. That's how. Yeah, people have to send me stuff for me to work on something.
Plus, if there's money involved, you could get exes that aren't on good terms, and that'd be even better.
Yeah, that's
That's
true.
it.
They're both motivated by the cash. Yeah.
Play like alimony or something. Like this is what we're playing for. You know.
Yeah, high stakes.
Yeah.
I get the kids.
Yeah, it's like divorce court on whatever that like
Judge
afternoon.
Judy's the referee. Or
Yeah,
something.
exactly. Yeah,
She's
those
still
aren't
alive,
real
right?
anyway.
I think she's still alive.
I found that those are like
Pre-scripted.
Yeah.
Dude, we went to the Price is Right in September on our honeymoon, and that
that's
was
sweet.
it was real,
Yeah.
but it's definitely not like what you think.
I watched a documentary on it, and they like do like casting beforehand, right? They bring you in a room and like ask you questions.
Yeah, kind of. Like when we went there, you go and like I'd say the whole thing was about like 5 hours, but the actual show was like 45 minutes. You know,
And they don't. It's not like random where somebody's like, "All right, the next person coming." It's like they have picked who they want to come up.
by that point, yes.
Yeah.
The whole thing was kind of a weird experience because we're staying in LA, so we had to take an Uber out to like Glendale. I guess they used to do it in downtown LA, but this was last summer. Their rent was going up or something, so they're like, fuck it, let's just buy our own lot somewhere a little outside of the city, and we'll do it there. So we go out there and we get dropped off at the end of this parking lot, and there's a lady sitting there, and a woman, and she's got a tag saying Price is Right. So we're like, okay. And she kind of just points and says, yeah, you just go down there to the end of the lot and turn right. So we do that.
Yeah.
And then we end up at this building that's got all this Asian writing on the outside of it, which we later learned was Korean, I think. And it looked very much like an embassy or something. So we're just like, we did what she said. Why are we here?
Yeah.
And we're looking around everywhere. We kind of end up going through some door adjacent to that building. I think they were connected though. And we went through, kind of just wandered around. We found a group of people who were just like, hey, we're looking for the Price is Right. They had no idea what we were talking about. And then we find this guy, another guy who clearly worked for the show, sitting there. And I guess we had somehow like cut through the entire line. So he sent us back, and you go outside, you wait around. So that's the first part, just waiting to get in the building. And the Asian stuff was explained that it was, I guess, their temporary holding facility for the contestants. It was like a Korean preschool in California.
Oh, that's so weird.
It was so weird. Like you're walking around, you're like, this is just not what I expected.
Did you get to watch the episode? Like, were you In the audience?
Yeah.
Okay, so you made it.
Yeah, so everyone there, or almost everyone, especially, we had tickets that we had gotten. They were free, but you had to apply through an email, and Kelly had done it a month or two in advance because she really, really wanted to do this.
Yeah.
And we got him like right as Bob Barker died too, and we were like, fuck, are we not going to get the tickets now? Because there's going to be a spike in interest, but we still got them. So if you have tickets, I think you're fine. You might have to wait a little longer if you don't make it on the first show. It might be an all-day affair.
Yeah.
But there were some people who clearly just showed up, who show up sometimes because they live around there, and some of them didn't make it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But they bring you to this big room where there's like a couple hundred of you in there, I want to say, and they're trying to keep everybody jazzed and pepped, and a couple people are doing that as well because they want to be seen by the looky-loos from the producers and all that. So, and neither of those people who were showboating ended up getting picked.
Right.
It's like they're like, no.
Do you write your own name on the name tag?
No, there's people who have been like trained to do it.
I always because like everybody's handwriting is so nice on the Prices Right. Like
it's
mine would be like
tall.
Yeah,
we have our name tags still. We have a whole bunch of stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
So then you're in that room for at least an hour and a half. They show you an episode of the show to try to be like, hey, this is what to expect, and get everyone laughing. And there's like dancing, like everyone's just, I don't know.
Get hyped.
Just trying to keep people busy. And then, they kind of start taking you in groups of, I want to say like a dozen. And you go just kind of around the corner and they just kind of go, hey, where are you from? What do you do? And we kind of knew this ahead of time. So we're like, Kelly wore like a little cheap dollar store like tiara veil bridal thing because we had gotten married in the summer and we were on our honeymoon. So we're like, let's milk that. We're Canadians on our honeymoon. In the end,
as a moose.
we didn't get picked though. So I was wondering in the end if maybe that was a bad decision, that maybe they're like, whenever the Canadians win, it's like a whole thing. We got to do the paperwork. And so I wonder if maybe that was
because you don't have to pay taxes on it, right? When a Canadian wins.
And getting it to the border, transportation, it's probably just a lot more complicated on both ends for the show and the contestants. So I wonder if maybe we should have just said we're on our honeymoon and skipped the Canadian part. But they ask you where you're from. I wasn't gonna lie. But we still got front row seats. We were like on the far side.
Has your episode aired yet?
Yeah, it was November 9th or something like that.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah, we taped it on my mother-in-law's, whatever, DVR or whatever they're called now.
Oh, yeah.
So we have it. We have a file. And you see us once in a while. We're kind of in the corner. But I got to shake Drew Carey's hand and say that how much I loved his sitcom growing up because I really was a huge fan.
I loved his sitcom.
It was
I
amazing.
Loved it. Yeah. I was like a big TV kid growing up. Like I was like.
Well, I loved improv too at the time. And like Whose Line and
great,
they were.
Dude, I still watch clips of that all the time. I should like go rewatch the Drew Carey show. I always think of the episode where he says he's on a hunger strike.
Yeah.
You know the one?
They got the skinny body on the couch.
Skinny body underneath, and they like pull up the blanket. They pull up the blanket, and he's got like skinny legs, and they're like, "Why is your head still fat?" And he's like, "Everybody knows head fat is the hardest to lose.
Yeah, face fat is the whatever. Yeah,
the hardest to lose." It was so.
And
funny.
Mimi was hilarious.
Oh yeah,
his
Craig Ferguson,
transgender brother. Way before that was in fashion or whatever. Like, I mean, it's all the rage now, but like back then that was like a bold move on a major network
for sure
show that airs at 9 p.m. or whatever. And that was a big plot in a lot of episodes.
I love Craig Ferguson. Like his stand-up, his late night show was like, for me, it was like one of the best.
He played a Brit in that show though.
He did. Yeah, he was the boss. Yeah.
Mr. Wick.
Yeah. Great show.
Oh man.
God,
Lewis and Oswald. Everybody on that show was great.
So good.
You probably sound really old to some people, but
Was his first name John?
Who?
Wick.
No, I don't know. I have no idea. No, it was Nigel, I think.
Something like that.
Might be wrong. It was something really British.
Yeah, Scottish, right? He was Scottish. He's Scottish.
He might
have been British on the show.
He was British on the show.
Okay, was he?
He is Scottish in real life.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Great show.
It was just ahead of its time, and they had the best intros.
I tried to like go back and like watch old shows I really liked. Like one I watched recently was Everybody Loves Raymond.
Yeah, I always sort of watched that.
I sort of did too, and I was like, I'll get into it because honestly, it's like for me, I have an 8-year-old. It's like trying to get things that she might like. Like there's a couple of shows, like some of them are newer, like Superstore. We both got into.
Yeah, I watched that. It was pretty good.
But now I'm going back to like older ones because she's like aware of Friends, and that was like big. And I was like, okay, she can probably like. There's nothing major there.
There's a lot of sex subplots, but I mean, most kids wouldn't get it. Yeah.
She would understand. It's like the funny slapstick stuff, Joey, and you know. But so I tried Everybody Loves Raymond. Man, that shouldn't. It's just not like it. Just didn't. I was like, I'm scared to go back and watch some of these shows that I was like into when I was younger because I don't want them to be like ruined for me, you know. But I think Drew Carey, I'm safe with that. Like that.
Yeah, and Drew Carey also, one thing I really loved about it was that they always had stuff that they would leave in the final cut where you could tell they were almost all breaking.
Yeah.
Or you could even see it sometimes where they were like legitimately laughing at, they were out of character, whatever you want to call it, but it was so funny and enjoyable still.
Yeah.
You know, like,
and when
hey,
I say
shut
one of the
up,
best
you know.
one of the best theme songs to a TV show.
Well, they had several that were all really great.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
The first one was just a face dancing, like a face.
Yeah,
that
the
was
original.
moving.
Yeah, it was like the cartoon
Moon
animated
over
one.
Parma. That was the first one.
And the other one, they're like taking the bus around town or something. They got like
There was the one where it's like up every morning. We talked about this on another podcast. I
Really?
think, with Bobby Knopf, maybe.
Oh yeah, Bobby would know.
Yeah,
Bobby's
I'm
like-
almost sure. So some
Yeah.
people are going to be like, "You fucking broken records." Well, it's probably been a couple hours already. So if you're still with us, this is how it goes. You know?
Yeah.
Getting older. That's pretty much it, though. Honestly, that's almost all I have. We do have. I wrote the. Do you play the banjo? Because I saw a picture of you with the
No,
banjo.
I don't. I bought one to learn literally right before I like jumped into comedy, and then I took one lesson and I broke the
Like, I'll be the funny banjo guy.
Yeah, I took one lesson. I broke the string in the lesson, and I never went back to it.
That's a bad omen.
I
yeah.
know. I was like, I'm done. It was so hard. It was so. I have no musical talent, like none. I don't have that. Whatever that is, like that's something you either have or you don't a little bit. You know,
To a
people
degree,
that
I
don't
would
have
say,
it don't
yeah.
have it, and I'm one of
Yeah.
the people where I've like had guitars in my life, and like I've tried, and like just.
My wife is the same. She wanted me to teach her bass, and she was able to follow a bit of that, but like vocally, completely tone deaf. I'll catch her trying to sing along with something if she doesn't know I'm listening, and it's always like 2 octaves or keys or whatever off. Like it's never right.
I did karaoke like a few weeks ago, and the speakers were behind me, so it was like I could hear myself, and I was like, I am unbelievably bad. Like singing, I'm awful. Like you
just
always
can't get
think
in
you're a
pitch
good
or whatever?
singer. You always like everybody. I think thinks is like, you know what, I can carry. Like I could carry a tune. Like when I'm singing,
Until
in
you
my
hear a
car,
recording of your voice.
and it's brutal.
Yeah.
Like yeah.
I mean, I consider myself a pretty decent singer. I'm not as great as some people. I'm no Logan Brown.
Logan Brown can sing.
He's got pipes. Oh, he's a fucking amazing guitar player too. God damn it.
He's an incredible
his little videos he posts. Your little videos, Logan. You know
So
what
good.
you're doing.
You're so good.
All guys who sort of play guitar, they see that shit and you just
Yeah,
crush
you
our
can
souls.
shred. Yeah.
We're never going to be that fucking good. Anyways, all the best to Logan. He got to meet Dave Matthews, he was saying recently.
I saw that. That's
I know
super
that was a
cool.
huge moment for him. So
Yeah, he's a big fan of Dave. Yeah.
Okay, well, the last question is the season 5 question, which you'll be the first one.
Okay.
I wanted to ask if you could relive and re-experience at any time you want a memory from your life, what would it be and why?
Oh man, this is tough. Okay, I got one. It's Olympic related.
Back to the village, baby.
I always say that this is the greatest moment of my life, and my joke is people are like, "Oh, your daughter being born?" I was like, "No, she's like number 4 right now." She's number. People hate when I say that too, and it's a joke.
Well, it's never going to go up, right? She
No,
can
no,
only
no.
go
She's
down from
only
there.
going to get pegged down lower and lower. Like I
a little
wrote out my
heartbreaking.
top 10 and it was like ridiculous. And I think she was 4. But number 1 moment is the Olympics in 2010. I'm in a bar. I'm watching the gold medal game, Canada versus US men's hockey, the Sidney Crosby goal, where like the
Even
whole
I know about that.
Yeah,
I'm not sports savvy at all.
yeah, the whole country was watching, right? So I'm watching this at the Olympics, and I'm surrounded by like all these like broadcasters who I really like because I'm like a broadcasting nerd too. So like these guys who were calling other events, like RJ Broadhead, who like calls hockey normally, but he was like, because it's the last event of the Olympics is the men's hockey gold. So every other event has ended. So we're all in this bar watching. It's an overtime game. It's crazy intense. Sydney scores the goal. The streets just empty out into like, I was in Whistler, so like the town square in Whistler, and then Blue Rodeo just starts playing. Like they were just there and people
Just ready.
handed them instruments.
Oh, the actual band?
The actual band
shit.
is there, and they just started playing, and they were like celebrating, and people are like drinking on the. Yeah, it is insane. It's the most insane
Pure
moment.
joy.
And there's like all these like athletes who just won gold medals that I've watched, and like celebrities around, and Blue Rodeo just like playing, and like thousands of people are coming into the square,
Wow.
and they got them amps and microphones, and they're just like on a balcony in like somebody's apartment, just like playing because Sidney Crosby scored. That
That
is
doesn't
like
even sound real.
it doesn't. It is so insane, and people are just drinking in the streets, and like police didn't care. It was like the most. I saw like pictures recently of when Argentina won the World Cup of soccer, of like this like euphoria in Buenos Aires, and I was like, yeah, that's like that doesn't surprise me. Like I had that moment when Canada won gold in the Olympics. Like it was insane. Yeah.
That's great because you do hear about some cities where like a team wins the cup and this or that, and then they like start flipping cars.
Yeah,
and, like
exactly.
there's been enough of those as well.
No, it was just like and it went for like probably 12 hours. Like
Wow.
it just was like
Just a rager.
just a rager in the streets and people everywhere. And it was like
doing lines with the guy from Blue Rodeo.
it was crazy. It was insane. It was the most insane
Not the only snow up here in Whistler.
moment of my life. Yeah. It was,
I don't know if he does drugs. I'm sorry, guy from Blue Rodeo.
Yeah. Jim Cuddy. Yeah.
Jim Cuddy. There we go.
Yeah. Yeah. It was crazy. It was
Cutting me another line there.
But I was
Jim.
like, part of me is like, was Blue Rodeo like going to play if they lost? Like, was this
Yeah,
reset?
right?
Like, if
Maybe
they
a
lost,
sadder
like
set.
everybody would have been losing their mind. Like
something
it
a
was
little
like-
more somber to
Yeah.
try to calm the crowds before they turn into a mob.
It was insane. It was an insane moment. Like
Crazy.
Yeah, it was super cool. That's a moment where I'm like, yeah, and I was like,
It was against the U.S.
it was against the U.S.
So I'd love to know what was happening in the U.S. at that moment.
I don't know. There was a ton of Americans around too.
Or were they all butthurt?
Yeah, they were a little bit, but it was just like such a good. They were like, part of them I think were like happy for us because at that point we hadn't won gold on Canadian soil ever, and we hadn't won the men's hockey gold. Oh no, we won in 2002. So up until this is 2010. Yeah, we hadn't won gold on Canadian soil was the thing.
Okay.
So there'd been
That's big.
other Olympics, but we never won gold. So it was like a big deal for us. Yeah,
Well, and the
it's
whole
crazy.
world knows it's kind of our thing.
is men's hockey.
I guess
Yeah.
Russia and some of the the Finland and those countries, I guess, probably have a lot of hockey too, just due to climate, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. They do, but like it's
But we're still known, I think, more than anyone.
for sure
Because of the
It's
NHL
like,
and-
we're just obsessed with it. Like people are just obsessed with it. I'm like not like I don't watch NHL every night. Like I'm not like a
No, but I think most Canadians have at least like a hockey NHL period of their life. Because
Right.
like I had that bond with my grandpa, like his dad.
Yeah.
You know, he was kind of a man of few words. And that, especially as at a young grandson,
Yeah.
you don't really know how to break that barrier. I wasn't the social dynamo that I am now.
Right.
So he liked watching hockey in his recliner. So I tried to take an interest in it. And I
Yeah.
genuinely still could go to a hockey game and like have a good time
Yeah.
in a way that I don't think I could with a lot of other sports.
Yeah, my grandpa's was baseball. Like he never missed a Jays game, and like I love the Jays now. Like I'll watch baseball. Like I find that more entertaining than hockey to watch for me. But it's all about Olympics in my mind. Yeah.
Yeah, you're waiting for those like shot put and the weird shit.
I love it. Like I love it. Yeah. There's a guy from Brockville that did shot put in the last Olympics, and it was like I just like saw him out one day. And I just like
got, like,
picked his ear.
posters.
Yeah. I was like, you're the man. Like
That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, before we sign off here, I don't know if you have anything you want to ask, because he said no at the beginning of the episode. He's like, I don't got anything for this guy. And I'm like, just wait. You're going to
Oh, well,
conversationally.
so one thing is that Chad brought a little something for your wall. You might want to.
Yeah, well, I was just about to address that after
Okay,
this.
all right.
Yeah, thank you, though.
The other thing is, I went to the 2002 Olympics.
Oh, in Salt Lake City.
Salt Lake City.
See, I didn't know.
That's not everything. So we can chat about that. if you like.
1896.
Yeah. What year?
1896.
But probably like that was the
was, like,
first
the first one, right?
And it was in
Athens, right?
Athens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a bit of a-
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
So
just
anyway,
a trivia nerd.
I didn't get the behind the scenes stuff like you did, but geez, I had a good time. I
bet.
gotta say, yeah.
Salt Lake City was great too. Canada won gold there
Yeah,
as well.
yeah. And I
You
got
went with
to-
work, right?
Yeah, I didn't see that though. I saw the game before, which was Germany. It was Germany and Canada, and we
Okay.
won that game, and that put us in the gold medal
Right.
game, right? Yeah. So I
Yeah.
saw that one, and several other events, and I went with a company that was corporately sponsoring me, so I got kitted out and all the gear and pins to trade and all this stuff.
Yeah, I have all that stuff too.
yeah.
What was your favorite event?
I liked watching the speed skating.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that
I
was-
never got to go to speed skating.
Yeah,
but it
speed
looks
skating
cool.
was cool just because the oval's so huge, really, when
it's
you look
massive.
at it.
Yeah.
And they're going a good clip. And when you watch them come around the bend, you're going, oh,
Yeah.
how are they staying on the ice?
Yeah,
Yeah.
one
You know?
misstep and you're.
Well, that's it. I mean, they're
gone.
purely on their edges, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, and when one loses it, like they go flying. So, yeah.
My favorite is biathlon. Because it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
skiing, it's like a ski race,
Yeah.
and they get to shoot guns. Like
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
crazy.
crazy.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they shoot targets, and they're insane. Like the targets are
marksmen.
this big. They're like the size of a quarter.
So what, they get off the skis, like the James Bond
No, they
entrance?
leave the ski and they shoot like down like a gun range.
And then they go back to
And then they
skiing?
go back to skiing.
Crazy.
And if you miss a
Who came up
target,
with that shit?
It's an old like sport. And if you miss a target, you have to do like a lap of like a penalty loop.
Yeah, and when they shoot, like their skis are pointing straight, sort of thing, and they twist their bodies,
Yeah.
to do the fire, right? So
Yeah.
it's not like you're shooting ahead like at the enemy coming at you. It's more like the enemy's coming at you from the side over there, and and then they get it back on their back and off they go. It's
I asked somebody, I was like, what do you do? Because they're huffing and puffing because they just skied like 5 kilometers, right? I was like, how do you like
Stabilize.
And I was like, do you shoot between breaths? And this guy's like a Russian guy's like, we shoot between heartbeats.
Whoa.
And I was like, that's how dialed in they are.
Damn.
I just let like in the Russian voice, I was like, that's the most badass thing I've ever heard. It's like,
Yeah.
we shoot between heartbeats.
well, and figuring his heart's got to be pounding.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I
yeah,
mean,
and
that's
they're like boom, boom, boom. Like,
Yeah.
like it's the breath is like, it's
I wonder if
crazy.
he's ever taken a heartbeat,
Yeah. I don't
Sounds like he
yeah,
might be,
yeah. It was
have a shady
intimidating.
past.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, thanks so much for coming, dude.
man,
Oh,
this
yeah,
was
yeah.
super
What is
fun.
this? Sorry, my bad.
Dude, I
Pulp Fiction,
do
can see that.
do
That's awesome.
painting. This one isn't like, but I'm like, oh, it's cool. I figured he might be a Pulp Fiction guy.
Yeah. I like Tarantino stuff as much as the next dude.
So I just like, I love doing like spray painting with like stencils and stuff. So I just was
Nice.
like, oh, I grabbed one from like something.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's always cool to see. I just got. I guess I'll actually, give me a second. You guys talk.
What are we gonna say?
Just something I just wanted to give a shout out to my friend Rick Campanelli, because he sent me one of his old school Much Music
that's
business cards. And he wrote me like a handwritten letter saying it might be the last one I have, so take good care of it. So I just want to let him know.
Oh, that's dope. That's
really
a
appreciate
super.
that.
Yeah, that's a cool
Vintage
memento.
Much Music. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, thanks. Did we
Thanks,
already
dude.
high five? I think we did.
I don't know.
We'll do it again.
Yeah, that was
Okay.
awesome.
I didn't want to forget the high five. Thanks for coming. Thanks for
having me.
watching. And hopefully we'll see you soon. Bye.